Hello, guys. Have you ever realized one day that your parents are not real? Well, apparently this girl has. And we're going to see what she did. Did she freak out or how she acted?
Hi, I'm Tiffany. For 15 years, I've been living with a lot of questions and a strange burden on my soul. All the people around me say that I do not look like my parents or grandparents, but like our neighbor, Uncle Matthew.
Oh, you don't even have to tell me this story. Uncle Matthew is your real father and those are your adoptive parents. Let me guess.
To be honest, I'm not very happy to hear this. I didn't care before, and I didn't even understand these words. But now that I'm old enough, the thought of it makes me sick. In general, my parents are...
Oh, last time, because you didn't hear noise in the animated true story, sorry about that. I was just trying a new way to record, and it didn't work, so...
very good people. We have 4 children in the family, and I am the oldest. Mom and Dad always wanted more children, because they were the only ones in their families. My mother often said that it was very sad to have no one to play with, and in adult life, after being left without parents, you feel lonely.
I don't think that's true. You get over it, girl. You get over being lonely.
I wasn't exactly familiar with that feeling. My parents got married early and gave birth every 2 years. They are sure that this way,
every 2 years? They must have a lot of babies.
Children will remain connected and they will be interested in playing and communicating with each other because of the small age difference. They were right. We are really close to each other. But
out of all the people in your family, you're the oldest. That's pretty cool.
I still sometimes feel out of my depth. I'll explain why. If you take our family photo, where we stand all together, the youngest brother looks like a grandfather,
I don't see how he looks like your grandfather, honestly.
Sister like a grandmother, an older brother looks like a mother, and logically, I should have looked like my father, but for some reason, everyone says that I look like our neighbor, Uncle Matthew.
Oh, he's got butt cheeks, so that means when you grow up, you're gonna get butt cheeks, because he's your biological dad. Even if he's your biological dad, he still has butt cheeks too.
Oh, that's what everyone in the neighborhood said. Everyone who knew my neighbor and my father. At first, I didn't care, because I was too young. And then, these conversations were embarrassing. Once, I even couldn't stand it, and directly asked my parents why people say that. But my mom didn't say anything and lowered her eyes. And my dad was angry and also didn't explain anything. He left.
So the mom's like, so he asked, why do I look like a neighbor and not like you guys? Mom goes like, Dad goes like, I'm so mad. That's kind of funny.
Left the room stupidly. This made me think that my neighbor Matthew was my real father.
Because he is.
Uncle Matthew himself was a good neighbor. He always treated us with apples and raspberries from his own garden and gave us toys for the new year. However, my parents forbade us to take them. Uncle Matthew lived not far.
He's just being nice.
Far from us. I didn't know why he was so nice to us, especially to me. And my parents strictly forbade us from communicating with him.
Dude.
You know, it was just another confirmation that my theory was correct. Perhaps, once upon a time, he met with my mother. Maybe they were even in love. But for some reason, they broke up, and then Mom met Dad. My mother decided to marry him, but did not know that she was already pregnant with me. And when she gave birth, my father guessed everything, but decided to forgive her. Well, Uncle Matthew, who was madly in love with my mother, found out that she had given birth to a daughter, that is, me, and when I began to grow up, he recognized me as himself and bought a house closer to watch his failed family.
How do you know this all happened? You're just this is all running around in your mind saying, okay. So Uncle Matthew did this, and then did that, and then did this, and then did that. How do you know? How can you think all this stuff? Because I'm pretty sure all that stuff is true.
That's the theory I had. I didn't share it with anyone, but I really
That's a very big theory.
Wanted to get...
This is gonna get copyrighted even though we only have like 5 years in this. Oh. Gee.
And I had a plan. Every year, my parents and I went away for a few days to visit my mother's friend at the dacha. It was our little vacation. I came up with a plan in advance and told my parents that I wanted to stay at home. study English, and improve my subject before school. They agreed. When the day of departure came, I saw the household off and went into the house. The first thing I did was go through all the documents: my birth certificate, my parents' marriage certificate, even the documents of my younger siblings, just in case. Everything was clean, nothing suspicious.
Nothing.
I carefully put everything in one folder, as
Until.
it was, and wanted to put it in place. And suddenly, a photo fell out of the folder. It was black and white and battered, and the image was blurry, but still visible. And then I just fucked up. What? Are my parents and Uncle Matthew in the photo? Threesome in a cafe? How so? Oh no, were they really best friends? Of course. It all fits together now. At this point, I was so nervous that I even got a headache. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Okay, comment below. If you're nervous, you get a headache? Who gets that?
How did it happen? What really happened? It was like being hit on the head with a hammer. In some ways, I was disappointed in my uncle's relationship to my parents, and I also felt sorry for my father. How could he forgive my mother? After all, she had been carrying someone else's child under her heart for 9 months. How did it feel? No, wait, and then raise a child that isn't your own. And you know, my father never hurt me in anything. I, as the eldest child, was first of all the children, and my father spent a lot of time with me, even when the other children arrived.
But how are your parents fake? Do you mean like they're fake, like not your mom, or are they actually like just blobs of rocks or not real?
My connection to him remained special. Now I loved and respected my father twice as much, and I suddenly felt so hurt for him. Just imagine how
Just expose your parents. Say, bro, I know about this.
it hurts and hurts him every time he hears that I am not his own daughter. This is terrible. Also, this damn neighbor moved in next to me and made my eyes bleed. I decided to take matters into my own hands and went to Uncle Matthew's house that evening. I knocked loudly on the door, and when he opened it, I didn't even say hello and went inside. He was very surprised at my arrival and impudence, but did not drive me away. To be honest, I was so excited that I couldn't start talking. After all, my own father was standing in front of me. I
Serious sustainability efforts are right under your nose.
And mine.
hated him for some reason. Is everything all right, honey? He asked, and tears rolled out of my eyes.
Honey, and this is when you know he's related to you. You hear the word honey.
These incomprehensible feelings, uncertainty, anger, pain, all this neighborhood gossip that my family is tired of, all because of him. Don't call me that. He was surprised. Is everything all right?
What did he do? Like, why are you so mad at him?
He asked after a moment, and I stood like a statue, silent and crying. Then I threw the photo at him. How did your conscience allow you to live with us all these years? Or are you just trying to make fun of us? Dad? The words made his eyes widen even more. What? Dad? What are you talking about? What kind of dad? He asked in surprise. I told him that I knew everything, and there was no need to pretend. I figured it out, and I don't need to lie. You dated my mother and then broke up with her, but she gave birth to me by you. That's why you're so partial to our family. That's why Dad hates you and Mom avoids you, right?
But why are you so mad at him for that? But I have a feeling that's not true. I know.
Neighbor stood shocked, confused, and then began to laugh. He laughed hysterically, and then said I had too much imagination. Now I was confused. Do you really think so? No, dear. If that were the case, I would be only too happy to have a daughter like you, he said. I didn't know what was going on. Then Uncle Matthew said something I wasn't ready for at all. Your dad and I are brothers, he blurted out. Brothers? Can't be.
How are you not ready for that?
In a state of shock, I tried to digest the information and could not believe what was
What's so bad about that?
happening. But how and why didn't Dad say anything? It turned out that he and Dad had a fight about something a few years ago. Uncle Matthew has long forgotten about this, but Dad is still sulking. They don't look alike because my dad looks like my grandma, and my uncle looks like my grandfather. And somehow, I was also born looking like my grandfather and uncle. The neighbors didn't know this because Dad didn't want to recognize his brother because of an old conflict.
See, you jump into the conclusions. Well, I actually sort of believed you, but I was never here.
So he didn't tell them that he had a brother. Well, my mother was silent because my father told her to be. And the photo was taken before I was born. We were celebrating your parents' wedding anniversary. My uncle...
How did you not realize it was taken before you were born? How did I not realize that? It was black and white.
Explained. Finally, everything fell into place. I, of course, could still not recover from the shock, but I... that we have another relative. When my parents arrived, I told them everything and asked my father to stop sulking at his brother. He resisted for a long time, but I had a good talk with him. Uncle Matthew came to our house with a cake and gifts, after which he and my father talked for 3 hours straight about their personal lives. Now, all the rumors about my mother's infidelity have disappeared, and new ones have appeared about why the brothers did not communicate with each other. In short, I understand that neighbors' gossip is an endless thing.
Hi guys, I'm Mark.
Oh, bonus story.
My story is about how my parents stole my childhood. Every day I lived like a prison. My parents raised me quite strictly and not quite logically, in my opinion. Just took and cut out my inner self. But as they say, there is a silver lining. My parents were careerists, so to speak. For them, the first goal was to achieve high positions at work, and they did not want to think about children.
That is not the first goal.
But fortunately, at the age of 40, they still decided to have a child. And it was not without their well-defined
Why, unfortunately? Isn't that good that they gave birth to you?
plans and schedules. Before I was born, my whole life was planned. Every detail. Where I should study, what to do in my free time, what profession to choose, etc. And since childhood, I never knew what street games were.
But still, on the other story, how is your parents not real? They're not blobs, they're real.
What fights were? I didn't even really have any toys. As if there was only training. In general, everything was like the army. Rise at 6, morning exercises, breakfast, morning training, and so on until the evening. Most of all, I liked
That would be very horrible. I like all those stuff, but like daily not getting to do what you want, that is horrible.
when Aunt Lisa came to visit us, because at this time, my parents were distracted from me, and I could rest in peace. And my aunt secretly gave me sweets. Just so you know, my parents only gave me candy as a reward.
Good aunt, nice aunt.
Those times, my parents were gone and left my aunt in charge. Before leaving, they gave a clear plan of
Shouldn't trust the aunt. Shouldn't trust the aunt.
action. But my aunt did not like such methods of education and just got me a toy robot from my bag, and I played with him all day. But by the evening, my parents, seeing I had not completed any of the tasks, were very angry and began to quarrel with Aunt Lisa. After that, my mother came to me and took away my toy.
How is the mother such a, I don't even know. Such a bad person. Okay.
Gave me the paper where my daily schedule was written. I was an outcast at school. While my peers were playing, I was studying. I didn't really have any friends. One day, just walking home from school, I decided to go through the park. When I saw the playground, I couldn't help myself and stayed there to play. I did not know how much time
I
had
don't
passed,
blame
and
you.
I
I like all of those stuff.
returned home in the evening all dirty and stripped. My parents immediately took me to task, and they started accompanying me everywhere. This was where all the problems at school began. I became the epicenter for ridicule, and everyone began to tease me. Once we had an art day at school, and we were going with the class to the cinema for a French movie, where I went with my parents, as usual. In the hall, one of my classmates shouted,
Only for a little, as usual.
"Look who's here with his old bodyguard," and everyone started laughing. I couldn't stand it and ran away. I ran for a long time and don't remember where. I didn't notice and rushed to my aunt's house. When she saw me on the
If you ran to the middle of the nowhere, how would you know where your aunt's house is?
doorstep, she hugged me and offered me to stay with her. The
Yes.
next morning, people started knocking and shouting at the house. I realized they were my parents. No sooner had my aunt opened the door than my mother attacked her with accusations, and my father yelled at me and put me in the car and took me back home.
No.
I have already completely lost the desire to perform any tasks and rules, and I locked myself in a room and did not go out until one day my aunt came over with representatives from child protection agencies. They found out the whole situation and decided my parents were not engaged in education
Yes. 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 You should still be thankful they gave birth to you, though.
correctly, and they said they would take me to a boarding school and my parents had to go to a psychiatrist. This meant that I would now live separately from my parents and we would only see each other on weekends. In boarding school, life began to develop differently. I made friends with many children, and
Yeah, that's actually good. Not bad, just on weekends.
in school, you can say I had no equal. I participated in various Olympiads and easily won prizes. I even felt a kind of freedom. Over time, I began to understand why my parents wanted so much that I did not waste time on various useless things. They wished me a great future and worked hard on my upbringing. My
What do you mean? Now you're forgiving them? They're just horrible.
parents gave me an excellent education. I know 4 languages and I participate in many Olympiads. I love them very much and I'm grateful, but thinking only about development, they completely forgot that a child should have a childhood. I can't call my childhood happy because even though they were beautiful people, I had a lot of psychological violence in my family.
Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. She did. Smash that like button and I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye. I gotta go to bed.